Yes. Welcome, come well to another episode, another doorway, another portal, another gateway, entitled "Am I as I am as you are?" Today's episode is titled "Why Do People Smoke, Drink, and Do Drugs?" Kind of want to dive right into this. A few relevant points I want to make clear on certain things. Remember, once again, when you first of all, let me thank my subscribers, those who have subscribed to this channel. It's very much appreciated. You're on this path and you're seeking to know something. That's something that you're seeking to know knows you better than you know yourself. Um, Keep going to it, run to it. So let me just thank you guys for the subscriptions, for reaching out for the Zoom meetings, the consultations. Progress remains in process, not just for me, but for you as well. We're all on this path, we're all seeking something, and we're coming into the knowing of something. Not just me giving this, but together I'm also learning as well. The more my experience unravels, the more I learn, and the more I earn, which means I get rewarded. So let's dive into today's title and topic. Why do people smoke, drink, and do drugs? Before I go into today's lesson, today's understanding, today's teaching, today's session, you cannot look at this with a form of judgment, to judge others, to judge people. This is not about judging, because when you judge something, you misunderstand and you don't get the understanding. Understanding has nothing to do with judgment. Judgment takes you away from the understanding of something. Okay, people do things for whatever reason they do things. Only they know why they do it, because it's a very internal, personal, private reason of why they do it. And it may be based on certain things that happened in their prior life or their past life, pardon me. Certain things that they may not be able to cope with or deal with or address or confront within their self. That's why they say, drink your pain away, smoke your pain away. Things of this, nature, these kind of statements that we've all heard at one time or another. But before I speak too fast or any further, I just want to dive into a few different points of what came to me through my spirit, through my spiritual doorway, through my spiritual medium, of the reasons for these occurrences and these happenings that happen within people's lives. Me personally, I used to smoke marijuana over 7 years ago for some unknown reason. My being stopped that. After that, I dived into wines here and there, natural wines. Natural meaning it just went through the natural fermentation process, which means just a different form of a concentrated substance, or goes into a different form of concentration. It's based on what we know as alchemy, or something that alchemizes. Something that alchemizes alkalines or alkalines. That when it alchemizes, it alkalines, which is why a berry or a grape turns into a liquid. So when it goes to an alchemizing state, it goes to an I guess you can call it a alkalinic state. It turns from something which was form or substance into something which becomes liquid or fluid. So I dived into wines. I guess you can call it natural, you can call it organic, you can call it vegan, whatever. Even some homemade as well. Just to I guess, see the natural occurrence and see what happens within my body. So I basically went from the lungs, from smoking over 7 years ago, to giving the lungs a rest, to now uh, experimenting with the intestines and the stomach and things that hold more liquid in their respective organic orbited bodies. Okay. So, but whoever does what for whatever reason, this ain't about judgment. If you do more stuff, then that's up to you. This is not about judgment. That's your volition. That's your prerogative. That's your will. Do as you will. Do as thou wilt is the whole of the law. Um, this is just for a more deeper understanding, the reason behind the reason of why you may actually be doing it. You may have a human reason, but remember, everything physical is a representation of that which is spiritual. That which is presented as a temporary state is only a representation of that which is a permanent existence. So you may have a reason. I'm doing it because of this. I can't take this shit. This is going on. This is driving me crazy. This is driving me insane. I gotta relax. I gotta smoke some. I gotta drink some. For whatever reason. And you may very well have a very justified reason. You may have proof for your reason. And it may very well be a true fact. But all in all, there's something else happening behind that curtain. There's a reason behind your reason. And we're trying to get to this reason, to drop this reason, to see what the real, true, divine, and spiritual and cosmic reason of this activity and why this activity is taking place within one's life. Okay, the spiritual background of things. Okay, so the first line in our doorway is plants and liquids after spiritual fermentation and distillation processes used in ancient rituals, ceremonies, and practices. So, plants and liquids after spiritual fermentation and distillation process that are used in ancient rituals, ceremonies, practices, and passages to activate and awaken the subconscious archetypes and prototypes of divine intelligence within one's mind and being. You see, so these rituals, these ceremonies, these practices, and these passages, or these rites of passage, because we're talking about ancient rites of passage, or for one to pass from one graduatory state into the next graduatory state. A certain kind of graduation or ceremony, which is why even parties now to this day and graduations and things of this nature, after that, people do what? They party. They party. And partying, you're gonna have smoke, you're gonna have drink, you're gonna have things to bring you to another higher level because you graduated on a physical level. So now it's time to graduate on a spiritual level, which is actually chemically based. It's chemical infusion, chemical interaction, chemical interfacing to bring one to a more higher state. Okay? To a more higher graduation. You graduated physically, now it's time to graduate spiritually. Okay? So, and these were used by, of course, what we know as plants and liquids, also known, also you can use as well as fruits, certain vegetation, anything and everything that this realm grows on this thing called soil, that sprouts things for us to see, grab, and interact with and utilize, ingest, consume for its reasons. So these plants and liquids of spiritual, or what people may know in the Muslim understanding as far as halal, or I forgot the rabbi what they call how they kill an animal the correct way, slaughter an animal or something, but dealing with meat or dealing with kosher. So in the halal way or the kosher way of dealing with plants and liquids, the sacrificing of its life as you consume it and ingest it to bring you to a certain kind of heightened awakening of some sort. So these plants and liquids, after spiritual fermentation, after halal, after being kosher, and distillation process, they were used in ancient rituals, ceremonies, practices, and passages to activate and awaken the subconscious archetypes and subconscious prototypes of divine intelligence within one's mind and being. So you're eating off of the vine. I told you before, divine is to consume off of the vine. That's what divine means. Like I told you before as well, to be righteous. If you call yourself righteous, then you are calling yourself the ripest. And when something gets ripe, it gets sweet. And after that process, if you leave it alone, a energy transformation occurrence starts to happen, which is what you call fermentation of that fruit. It turns into different colors. It goes through a distilling process on its own. It has its own natural alchemizing state, that it puts itself through to become a higher concentration of itself, to be immediately recognized. This is why you leave a banana out for a long time. It goes through energy transformation. You see melanin clusters, melanin spots on it. And if you bite that banana, it's so sweet, because the sweetness just means that it wants you to immediately recognize it. It wants you to immediately identify it. So it's looking for your immediate acknowledgement. It's very concentrated. It graduated itself to a higher concentrated level of existence. See, so this is what you may call drugs, what you may call alcohol, what you may call marijuana, whatever it may be. But also, too, something can be inhaled or ingested through a certain chemical state, which it wasn't to be in the beginning. Like marijuana can be lit by fire, or you can just drink marijuana tea, or the marijuana branches, or the marijuana leaf, and put it inside of a tea and brew it and sip that, or just take the marijuana leaf and just eat it and just consume it as its natural body. This is where you get the true communication. There's other ways of communication as well, like I said, smoking it and stuff like that, drinking it, but things communicate to you clearly by ingesting it as the way it presents itself in that form, to get its direct message. Okay, whatever it may be, opium, whatever you do, whatever it may be. That's why people chewed on the opium leaf, or the opium from the coca leaf and tobacco. Putting light and fire to it it's also kind of ancient as well, but it's more used for, like, just as a force of habit nowadays, and cyclic routines, and for economy and stores, and to sell and make money for companies and businesses and conglomerates. But all these things happen from a very antiquitous point of origin for the sole purpose of spiritual activity, spiritual involvement, spiritual participation. Okay. So let's go to this is some of the drugs or some of the substances that were smoked, ingested by ancient shamans, sages, spiritualists, voodooists, people that dealt with voodoo, that dealt with voodoo, different things of this nature. Okay, different people of the same nature, of these natures. Drugs like psilocybin, drugs like, or things like mushrooms, peyote. Peyote was used and utilized by a people called the Ani Yun Wiya, which is who you may know as the Cherokee Indian. The Cherokee wasn't called Cherokee at first. They were first called the Ani Yun Wiya. They used peyote, a substance called peyote, another substance called morning glories, another substance called ayahuasca, which was used by African shamans. Okay, entheogenic florals, another substance called soma, another substance called casolage, k, azolage, ok, ox, k, or this thing is k, azolage, ok, ox, which was used by the Akinme, which you may know as the Mayans, the Olmecs. But this was the Akinme used this one. The Akinme and the Aniyunwiya, these were the ancient priesthoods who used these substances to bring about, to call forth, to bring forth that which was internal within the mind and being of its subconscious nature. Okay, so this is the pull out, the draw out. They use these mediums, these substances. The next thing you have is Ergo or Ergata Ergo, which was the East African priesthood. It came from the East African priesthoods. You also have something called Cohoba, which was used by the Olmecs and the Mayans, as well as the Inca and the Aztec, which is Mesoamerican. You also have, of course, opium and hemp, which were used by the Pelasgians and Etruscans. These people who were there, who were in what you know as Europe, or was once known as Europa, because Europe comes from the word or the goddess Europa, which is an African goddess. So the Europeans, or the Europas, which is what you know as the Pelasgians, Etruscans, Mycenaeans, Minoans, this which are basically Northeast Africans that were once Central Africans or Africoid, and they utilized opium and hemp. So of course, cannabis, tobacco, cocoa leaf. And this is just to name a few. Like, I'm really naming nothing. There's so many other ones out there. And it's everywhere because remember, it's floral. So it's growing. It's been growing and it's growing and it grows around us constantly. So these things are certain intelligences that happen, that grow. And for some reason, we know how to utilize it and digest it. Or we know to utilize it. We know to digest it or ingest it for whatever reason. Something within our internal antenna tells our outer antenna to grab it, cook it, smoke it, drink it, to do something with it. It's just an innate intelligence that we just know to do for whatever reason. Okay. Certain processes that these alcohols or these substances go through is fermentation, distillation, homogenization, and pasteurization. This is what these so-called drugs go through. Alcohol or alcohol goes through, and these are just basically certain processes that it itself goes through on its own, and that human puts it through as well. It puts it through a certain process dealing with machines, hands, things of that nature as well. Okay. So, fermentation, distillation, homogenization, and pasteurization. Now, they may call these things drugs. Oh, that's a drug. That's a drug. Well, let me tell you something. Your milk, your juice, and your cheese, just to name a few, just to name three, go through the same process before you consume it. On the back or the front of your milk and your juice and your cheese, you're going to always see the words homogenization, pasteurization. You may even see fermentation. Distillation is more with alcohol. So if you drink milk and juice and you say, well, I don't do drugs, I don't drink alcohol, I don't do that, There's no such thing as drugs and alcohol. There's only a such thing as alchemization, fermentation, the distillation, homogenization, pasteurization. So you may not do what you think or what you know what is called as drugs or alcohol, but you are consuming the same nature as the alcohol or as the drug, which is nothing but the principles, the fermentation, or the fermentating process that the fruit or the vegetable or the grain or the seed or the nut or whatever substance may put itself through naturally that goes through a second process by man's hands. So it goes from its own natural nature's process to human's process. It goes through two different processes of its own first primal process. And this is why you get concentrated juice or concentrated this or concentrated that, because it's been brought to a different level of concentration through human idea of concentration and the processes throughout their machinery and their factories. But still in all, it's the same kind of process that the fruit or the natural food puts itself through before it goes into man's hands. So this is, like I said, it's not about judgment, it's about understanding. For some reason, unbeknownst to us, this body, as a matter of fact, this human body goes through a natural fermentation, distillation, homogenization, and pasteurization process, which is what we call aging, which is what we call dying or leaving the body. You see? So, of course, this ferments. You know how it ferments? Because when you do a lot of exercise, you start to perspirate. When you perspirate, fumes come out of your body, under your arms, under your feet, in your hair, in your breath, your mouth. You get wax in the ears. You take a shower, you wash up, you wash off. But even washing up or washing off does not stop the fermentation process from taking place. It's a divine process. It's universal law, because you have to be in this body, then you have to leave out this damn body. So there has to be a rotting, a putrefaction that has to take place with this body in order for you to exit it just like you entered it. You see? So this fermentation process has to be, it's inevitable. So maybe we consume fermentation and putrefaction because this body is a product, the epitome of fermentation and putrefaction. Just something to think about. Remember, we're looking for the reason behind the reason. We're looking for the reason behind your brain's reason, behind your personal reason why you may do something. You may be doing something to carry out a divine mission, which is inevitable. I mean, goddamn, all this shit grows around us anyway. How can we not look at it? How can we not glance at it? How can we not acknowledge it to some degree at some point in our life? How do we know to put it in our mouth rather than in our ears? You see, there's a certain kind of intelligence which already is. Just like when the baby, you put a fruit in the baby's hand, you put something in the baby's hand, you don't tell the baby to put it in their mouth. They just grab the piece of apple or whatever it may be, the pear, and all of a sudden they just do this. And they start eating the pear, or they start eating the apple, or they start eating the sliced banana that you gave them. How does that baby know to put that banana or that apple or that pear or that grape in their mouth? You see, there's a divine intelligence, there's a divine communication and conversation being held, whether we know of it or not. There's already a divine connection, a cosmic connection to plant, floral, everything and anything in this reality. See, and once we look at it and we grab it, interact with it, and touch it, we know exactly where to put it for some reason. Okay? And you think about the word also too, when I said before, this body goes through a natural fermentation process uh, as well. It's funny because what we call this globe, so-called, there's something above this, a halo effect, a halo above this reality, which is known as the firmament. You see where I'm going with this? So maybe the body is the fermented nature, seeking fermented substance to pierce through the firmament, which is why people may die from overdose. This is something to think about. This is something to question yourself about. This is something to have the answer for that question for. It's just a thought. Remember, my channel is for people who are thinkers, who know how to think, who think on their own, who are seeking something beyond what they see in the mirror, beyond what they see around them, beyond what they can touch. Okay? This is what this channel is for. We do not look at anything that I say and I share with you based upon judgment. If you look at it based upon judgment, you have now zoomed in on the messenger and you will never receive the message. Do not focus on the messenger. Zoom in and magnify in on the message itself. That's the Messiah. The Messiah is the message. It's not a person somewhere that once lived a long time ago, or this or that. It's somebody in front of you, somebody that you go to every Sunday, or somebody that you look at and listen to. These are not messiahs. The Messiah is the message, not the messenger. That's why the Messiah says, I am the messenger. Yeah, you're the messenger, nigga, but I'm looking for the message. It's about the message. That is the nature of the Messiah, the message. Okay, so pay attention to the message. I know some of you probably looking at this video, yes, I'm sure some of you probably drink, smoke, do drugs, shoot up, whatever you do, snort. That's your business. That's your system. That's your fermentation system. So you get to have your own fermentation activity. That's your right. So this is for those, this specific video is for those who deal with that kind of activity, or who may have dived into that kind of activity at one time, or who may be thinking to try one of these activities one time in their life, or who are curious about it. I want to know something about one who has been through maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5 of these different things. I've been through 2, smoking and wine. Okay? And just from this, I can deliver a message to you. Okay? The next line of doorway is the myths of poisons, funguses, and residues. No, that's poison, that's poison, that's poison, that's poison. But when poison is taken in or ingested in a certain way, it becomes a medicinal. Every poison is a medicinal. Every medicinal is a poison, can be a poison. Like if they say, too much of anything can be detrimental to the human system, to the fermented system. This is why everything is supposed to be taken in with considerate and respectful moderation. Because you tend to go into a cycle, which is what they call an addiction. Now, like snake venom. Sometimes snake venom is used as somebody say because snake venom means that the blood, once the snake bites with their teeth in the victim, the blood travels through the point of the fangs into the bloodstream of the victim. And when that happens, the blood goes quicker throughout the body, which is where they get their heart pumping quick and they start to sweat and perspirate, they start to shake. Because the blood is rushing through the system at a very high speed, at a very high pace. But say somebody's heart is slowing down and their system is functioning very slow. There's been cases in India, in southern India, where snake venom was used to rush the blood throughout the system, or to awaken somebody back up to awaken them back into the life, to pump the blood fast through their streams and their blood in their veins, to bring the person back at a normal pace of living and of life, to bring the blood back floating through the body. So sometimes venom was used to activate circulation throughout the body, which affected the circulatory system, which is the heart, the ears, the nose. This is connected to the circulatory system. So sometimes a poison was used to heal And this is just one example, one case, one thing I'm just talking about at the moment. And there's many. There's many, 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 many cases, uh, instances that this has happened. The next line in our doorway is just like I talked about the fermentation, distillation, homogenization, and pasteurization process that is within your milk in your refrigerator right now, your juice in your refrigerator right now, and your cheese in your refrigerator right now, which you love, which you could probably consume every day, every other day, or occasionally, whatever so be. And you say, I don't do drugs, I don't do that. Well, that is just the same process as any drug or alcohol. I don't drink, I don't do drugs. That's the same damn process. Um, just like you have spices and seasonings that you use for you vegans out there, for you carnivores out there, for you vegetarians, whoever you are, whatever you do, spices and seasonings, ingredients were once used and ingested as drugs. Did you know sugar was once a drug? Did you know salt was once a drug? Nutmeg, paprika. But I thought drugs were bad. It's not the name. Don't zoom in on the name drug. Take the word drug out the equation. Eliminate the letter D, the letter R, the letter U, and the letter G, and just vanish that out of your terminal, out of your vocabulary. What is the process that happens before that name is pasted onto it to define it? And then give it a judgment like it's wrong or it's bad or it's whatever you want to call it. What is the process? What does it do to the body? It heightens things or it enhances certain things within the body of that being within that moment. Okay, so sugar, salt, nutmeg, paprika, amongst many others. These things, yeah, they may be a drug, but guess what? They were also medicinal because a lot of you vegans and vegetarians and just chefs, period, in culinary institutions and then in the cuisine world, use all these spices and seasonings in your everyday meals. So these were once known as drugs that were being traded from continent to continent, from country to country, from a people to another people, from a culture to another culture. Till this day. So you have to understand your mother and your father and your grandmother and your grandfather and their great grands prior to them, before them, that they derived from, used seasons and spices and all these different things. And it doesn't matter. You are a drug baby. I'm a drug baby. We're all drug babies, including my mother, including my mother's mother, my father's father, my father's father's father. There's no such thing as a drug. It's just heightened senses or enhancement of sensory perception, mental perception, enhanced mental perception, enhanced sensory perception. And it doesn't have to be any alcohol or anything else that was put a flame to it, or it goes through its own alchemizing process. It can be in your everyday foods that you have right now, all your foods that you have in your refrigerator, on your counter, in your kitchen, right now in this very moment that I'm holding this video. If you see any words of fermentation, distillation, homogenization, or pasteurization, that is considered a drug because it went through a second process, a factory process from the human's hands. But understand that nature itself puts itself through its own natural fermentation, through its own natural distillation, through its own natural homogenization, through its own natural pasteurization process. That's what Mother Nature does for herself, to herself, for the consumption and ingestion of you. Okay? The next line in our doorway is spiritually, from a spiritual point of view, the body and mind seeks external intoxicants and hallucinogens and psychedelics in order to discover the internal realities and chemical activations that reside within the body and being. This is another way of looking at it. This can be seen as another reason behind the reason. Something to factor in as a possibility. If you are science minded, if you are a scientist, if you are in this experience to experiment, not just with drugs and this and that, alcohol, just to experiment with your mind, body, soul, and spirit, to experiment with this reality. Now you have two types of scientists. One who practices, who does experiments on people outside of him or her, and one who does practices and experiments on their self, within their self, on their person, in their person. I am one that experimented. I like to experiment on myself, and this came even in martial arts. You have to, I'm the type of scientist that I like to experiment on myself because it makes it just that much more real to me. I'm not a believer. I like to know something. People could talk stories all day. We're all storytellers. But when you go through the actual experience, then that believing vanishes and you just become a knower. You become an experiencer because you have experienced that reality. So, where was I going with this? Spiritually, from a spiritual point of view, the body and mind seeks external intoxicants, hallucinogens, and psychedelics in order to discover the internal realities and chemical activations that reside within the body and being. So basically, one of the reasons you can factor in as a possibility of why we may indulge and involve ourselves in external stimulants and intoxications and alcohols and drugs and smoke and whatever it may be, there's something within you that is trying to wake up, that is trying to bring you to its attention. And eventually, it's saying, I reside within you. And see, the whole point of this, my understanding, is we utilize external things to find that internal thing. And once we find that internal thing, we eventually let go of the external thing. This is why you have yogis and gurus and stuff like that that are talking about the meditation, the breathing technique, how you can just be high off of breathing. You can be high off of life, off of the breath itself. Because if you breathe right now a few times, real deep, in and out, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, you do it about 13 to about 15 times really quick, you are going to feel lightheaded. You get really high. You can get high for drinking a whole bunch of water as well. Everything is internal. So we use the external to find out that which resides internal so that eventually we can release the external and no longer participate in the external and just turn it on by will. Just when we want to. If I want to feel intoxicated right now, I can turn it on by will without consuming something. If I choose to drink something, I choose to drink something. But if I don't, I can turn it on by will. Because I found that liquor or that alcohol. I don't drink liquor. I found that alcohol, the entity, the energy of the alcohol, or the process or the activating factors of that process of what they call alcohol, I found it within my body. So I can just turn intoxicant when I want to. You see, so it's these outside things are doing something to wake up an inside you that you can turn on at any time. You don't have to look for anything. You don't have to pick anything. You don't have to break apart anything. You don't have to distill anything. You don't have to go through a fermentation process and things of that nature. All you got to do is turn on and it's there. Okay. So basically, the substances are just an introduction or presentation to introduce you to your internal intelligence, to present a potential option and opportunity to utilize for your inner workings, if chosen to be involved by your participation for whatever reason or for whatever calling. Okay, so These are just basically introductions and presenting you to something inside of you which reside inside of you that you no longer have to reach outside for if you just know how to turn on and tune in to that uh, activation within you to turn on. You should be able to be high by will. You should be able to be intoxicated by will. So you find these things, or we utilize these things outside of us because we are the five senses. So we utilize these five senses to find that one sensei within us, to call to that sensei and say, I want to feel this way right now. And you just feel it. I want to feel this way right now. You just feel it. See, so we no longer try to find anymore. We just seek that internal activation and turn on that high immediately. And you think about it too. People talk about, what God is, and they say the Most High. The Most High. To be high, not for marijuana to that degree or outside substances, but to be that internal high, to be the Most High. So how you come in tune with the Most High is to be the Most High. I'm going to explain further what that means. This is not based upon judgment. It's based upon understanding. Stick around and you understand where I'm going with it. Okay, next on the doorway is for people who smoke. This goes into the lungs or affects the lungs. The lungs is basically the primary digestion. You don't digest with your intestines in your stomach. The first actual process of digestion is the lungs because it dispels the gas from the substance or dispels the gas from the smoke or the liquid or the food. That's why it turns into a mush and then travels through the large intestine into the small intestine, through the duodenum, into the stomach, and so on and so on and so on. So first digestion happens within the lungs. Okay, so that's why I said smoke affects the lungs, which is the primary digestion. Drink or drinking affects the intestines or the stomach, which is the after digestive process from the first digestion process, which is the lungs. Drugs, which deal with the veins or injecting something or shooting something up in the vein, immediately goes into the bloodstream. I would say that that may be the most cautious way of doing something because it's actually bypassing all your security guards. The security guards meaning your dermal layer, epidermal, and subcutaneous layer, the three layers of your skin, not including the vein as well, and directly into the bloodstream. Because your skin has a natural process of fermenting something, distilling something, homogenizing something, and pasteurizing something. When you bypass all that from the needle into the vein, you're going past all your security guards, or you're bypassing all your security points, and you're going directly to the source. So therefore, from this point forward, the body now has to go in reverse. Before it went from the mouth or the nose into the system, and as it travels down the esophagus, because both smoke and both smoke and liquid travel down the esophagus. Smoke goes into the bronchial tubes as well as liquid as well, but liquid goes more into the intestines and stuff like that. And the stomach and passes into the gastrointestinal and phosphoric acid and goes through different processes in the liver and things of that nature. Things are more liquidic, have more of a liquidic nature. Whether it's smoke or drink, it has to go through the esophagus and the bronchial tube and so on and so on. So it still goes through a security point, a security check, a security check, a security point, a security check, a security check, a security point, and it enters out the system. That which goes from the vein into the arm bypasses all the security. So now the system works this way, but now it has to now work from this way outward. You see, so you're putting your system in a reverse mode. It's not nothing good, it's not nothing bad. We all have to leave this body at some damn point. How you choose to leave the body, that's your choice. I'm just here to give you a knowledge of the natural processes or the natural proceedings, the natural function, the natural operation of this physical vehicle, of this skin suit, okay, of this organic organization, of this embodiment, how it functions. Okay, so you're bypassing every security point, which means that anything is bound to go down at any time. That's why most people who shot up from the 80s and stuff like that, in the 90s, which was more prevalent, the 80s is very prevalent, late 70s as well. A lot of them overdosed or just did it one time and just they were found rotting in the house after 3 or 5 days. They didn't see the person come out the house. And they went in there, people busted in and they seen the person just dead with blue pupils and their skin was frozen and was pale and just had a needle stuck in their arm. You also see people like this, heroin dope addicts on corners as well back in the 80s, that were just on the corner just laying. You didn't know if they were sleeping or they were dead. And these things happen because they bypass the whole natural process of the body, past all security points, all security guards, and went straight there. Now when you're talking about digestion with the lungs and the stomach and the intestines, gestion is also the word gestation. Gestation means development. But ask yourself, to develop what? Why is it going through a digestation? Why is it going through a development? What is it trying to develop? What inside of me is seeking growth and development, and for what reason? Something is trying to prosper within you. Something is trying to communicate within you. It's trying to grow itself and develop itself within your developed embodiment. There's some kind of connecting going on to for some kind of reason. It's trying to tell you something. It's trying to convey something to you. Primarily, of course, smokers and drinkers. That goes through the digestion process, because shooting up the needle in the vein is not going through a digestive process. It's just system turmoil. But something is trying to break down, and digestion just means there's a breakdown happening. There's a breaking down of elements, melanosomes, melanocenes, these sentient intelligences that are hidden and hide themselves within floral, botany, like I said, grain, things of this nature, and are looking to be ingested for the process of digestion or digestion, to communicate to you, because you can't hear them with your ears, you can't see them with your eyes, so they have to be ingested and consumed in order to commune with you. So something is happening, something is taking place between time and space. Okay, the next line, animal doorway, is these things, i.e. drugs and alcohol, are what you call the identity killers and archetype activators. It destroys your moralistic related behaviors and drops you into your primal nature of universal chaos. It introduces you to your chaotic being, the being that stays bottled up and hidden from your present consciousness or conscious state of mind. As a matter of fact, that hidden, bottled up subconscious being is so powerful that it can influence your conscious state to ingest or inject a chemical key to unlock itself into your present reality. For what? To trade places with you for an undetermined period of time until you realize its reality and its purpose. that disguises itself as another device of mind behind your conscious curtain of existence. It's the genie and the lamp theory. Picking up a lamp with a writing on it underneath some dust or dirt. So, in order to see what's written on it, you rub that specific spot on the lamp, and the genie immediately pops out of it and grants your wishes. That's how clever and cunning the intelligence is. So, this is why some people will smoke and or drink, and who they are from a moral standpoint of view goes out the damn window. So people ingest and intake these substances to go beyond their moralistic ways of being. Maybe they themselves can't surpass that when they're conscious in that state, so they may need assistance to surpass that conscious state, to get the goal, to get the guts, to go beyond that moral, proper, politically correct, socially correct behavior and moral way of thinking. Because that basically is based on the matrix. It's based on the brain. You're supposed to be this way. You're supposed to be that way. That's good. That's bad. That's wrong. That's right. That's up. That's down. That's pure. That's evil. Smoking and drinking, these substances pierce through that illusion and that matrix into the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind and the unconscious mind, where that moral structure and moral behavior does not exist. That is a spiritual foundation. That's a spiritual platform that is trying to get to. And you have to ask yourself, why is my being doing this? Why am I trying to bypass this and go past the conscious way, my personality, my name, my identity, my birthday, my race? I am this person, I am this man, I am this, I'm this, I'm that. You have all these titles and all these labels, but smoking and drinking bypasses these titles, names, and labels and goes back to that which doesn't have a title, that which is untitled, that which is labelless, that which doesn't have an identity, that which is the ghost aspect of you, the spiritual aspect of you, the immoral one, which is the immortal one. So it's going past the mortal being, it's going past the illusion to pierce into the reality of your true nature. But sometimes the reality of your true nature can be a threat, or it can be very chaotic in the realm of order, which is known as the physical reality. The physical reality is the reality of order. The spiritual reality is the reality of chaos, which is the soul's reality as well. So you have to ask yourself, why am I consuming things and ingesting things to pierce through my correct and good behavior? Why am I doing things to go past the good citizen that I think that I am, that I appear to be, that I act to be in society and amongst people? Why is this happening? Why is this transpiring? What's going on within me? Once again, like I said, these are things to question and ponder to see why your nature is diving into this activity of ingestion and consumption of substances that are labeled, entitled, and known as drugs and alcohol. It's shutting down your brain and tapping into your mind. It's shutting down your human nature and tapping into your spiritual purpose or your spiritual nature. That means that the brain is shutting down. The very reason why people are doing that is because the third dimensional realm is disappearing. Remember, people's activity, the physical activity, always stands for a spiritual representation. We're not saying you're doing that, that's bad, that's not right, that's wrong. No, we're saying, why is this happening? For what reason? Why are people taking more drugs? And not even say more drugs, but why do people take drugs? Why do people smoke? Why do people drink alcohol? what do these things do? Basically, what do they do? And then when you find out what it does to the human mind, to the human body, to the human being, period, then you say, okay, it does that, it does this. So is that actually happening? Is that actually taking place in the spiritual totality of it all? Is that what's really happening? Is something trying to come through from another dimension which isn't physical, that's trying to pierce into our present physical reality? Is something else calling me? Is something else pulling me to it? Is something else trying to tell me something? Is there some otherworldly, other being, other supernatural intelligence that is trying to communicate to me? And if so, what is it trying to say? And also, what is it doing to the physical shell? What is it doing to the health? What is it doing to the body? If you're consuming it way too much, or what you may call, past your limit or over your limit, but you just keep taking it in. And also, if you are drinking or smoking or whatever you're doing, are you doing it according to ritual? What I mean by that, I mean that if I were to drink wine, what I do is, and I didn't read this anywhere or research this or find this anywhere, I just did it. And then after I did it, I understood after I did it why I was doing it. Before I consume wine, if I choose to consume wine, I drink a whole bunch of water before I drink wine. Then while during I'm drinking wine, I drink a whole bunch of water while I'm drinking the wine. After I finish drinking the wine, I drink a whole bunch of water after I finish drinking the wine. So what is that doing? What is that saying? What's happening? As this intoxicant, pardon me, as this, yes, I guess you can say that, this substance is entering into the body, as I'm putting it into the body, I'm also giving it a way out of the body. So I'm not just putting it in the body and not letting it find its way out or assisting its way out or helping its navigation outside of the body or out the body. I'm giving it a way out. Just as much as I'm giving it a way in, I'm giving it a way out. So when you smoke, just like you're giving it a way in, are you giving it a way out the body? This is ritual. Remember, water is nothing but transportation. Water is nothing but a transportation system. It's a liquid computer. It's a liquid intelligence. It's no different than a bus or a train or a cab. It's transportation. You're helping to transport that which was put into the system back out of the system. Just like a train pulls up into a station, and it comes out that station. Just like a bus stop pulls up to a stop and it pulls out that stop. Just like a cab picks up somebody in a corner and it pulls off from that corner. Are you giving that outward? Are you giving the inward and out way out of the system? This is polarity. This is ritual. This is spiritual. This is cultural. This is what we did. We didn't just take things in. We made sure that whatever we took in, we gave it a way out. So if you drink, my best advice to you is to drink a whole bunch of water before, drink a whole bunch of water during, and then drink a whole bunch of water after to get it out your system before the moon and sun cycle, or before the sun and moon cycle is over during that 24-hour period. If you smoke, drink a whole bunch of water before you smoke, drink a whole bunch of water while you're smoking, and drink a whole bunch of water after the blunt is out to get that shit back out the system before the sun and moon cycle is over, before the 24-hour period has completed. That's one of my best advice to anybody who smokes, drinks, or even does drugs, whatever, shoot up, whatever you want to do, whatever's your forte. Okay? But anyway, we have to look at these things from a metaphysical eye and an occult point of view. OCCULT. Dealing with the occultum, which is not another word for melanin. Okay, like I always say. So once again, I said these things, this smoke and this alcohol and this drug intaking, these are identity killers. They kill your identity. and they are archetype activators. Archetypes are things that are of a primal nature. It's waking up a primal intelligence. So archetype is nothing but a primal intelligence, an archangel, an arced angle of light. You're arching the angle and turning it into a type, into a symbol, sign, symbology, symbols. These three symbols and signs above my head. This is representation of synthesization. This is actually what takes place during the ingestion or intaking of drugs and alcohol. It's synthesizing in your blood. It's synthesizing smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller to get to that primal core of your being, to talk to you, to communicate to you. This is what mushrooms do. This is what psilocybin does. Peyote, ergo, whatever you're talking about. This is what these things do. This is why they affect you. They get to the core of your DNA or your hemoglobin. See? And they communicate to you. And they're trying to get a fast message to you. Or they're trying to get the message to you as fast as possible, which is why your heart pumps, which is why very quick, which is why the bloodstream flows to your body, because you're going to a higher vibration. And this is why, like I said before, when people do drug overdose of drugs and shooting up, their heart pumps to a certain degree where it goes to a higher vibration. All of a sudden, that being leaves this reality, which is what we know as death. Sometimes the message is too potent for the physical system. See, depending upon how you introduce it and present it to the body. Are you going through your security points, or are you not going through your security points? Ingesting, intaking, consuming these drugs, this smoke, this alcohol, it kills the identity and it activates archetypes in the mind and your spirit. It destroys your moralistic behaviors and drops you into your primal nature of universal chaos. This is why people get into a lot of shit when they drink very high percentages of alcohol. You see, it brings you into your universal being, which is universal chaos, your primal being, which is universal chaos. This is why you have stop signs and red lights and don't do this and this is the law and that's crime and this and that is this. There's so many stopping points and checking points because this is the realm of pure chaos. Your spirit and your soul is the epitome of chaos. It's trapped, or it's embodied within what we know as quantum physics, the quantic state that disguises itself as chemical, that disguises itself as the flesh and the bone and the organ and the cell and the blood and the body and the being. But it's synthesizing itself all the way to get to that point. This is what fermentation, distillation, homogenization, and pasteurization does. These are just 4 levels of synthesization or synthesizing. 4 different languages trying to communicate to you at one time within one ingestion and one intake of something. And sometimes, like I said, we don't like our identity. So maybe sometimes, maybe while you're smoking, you're drinking, or you're doing drugs, probably because you don't like the identity that you want them. Maybe you're trying to kill that identity, but you just don't know how. You don't know how to do it without intake and ingestion or consuming something. And you may feel consuming something, ingesting and taking something may be the shortcut to grandma's house. Maybe a fast way to kill that identity. But the funny thing about that is, the catch about that is, when you come out of that possession, out of that state of taking that drug or drinking that alcohol, if you are not conscious during that state, and are aware of what's taking place in your universal state, your chaotic state of being, you are going to return right back to that same identity, right back to that same personality. When that entity or that sentient intelligence that comes in the form of smoke or liquid leaves out your system. So another best advice is to just remain conscious and aware when that experience is taking place, even when you feel intoxicated, even when you're feeling high. At those moments, be conscious and aware of the feeling of highness or the feeling of intoxication. Try at that point, practice every time that you do that, to stay in that moment and to feel what's actually transpiring within the body. Take the brain out the equation because it's killing the identity. It's killing the ego to a certain degree. It's killing that present ego, and the ego just transforms into another form of ego. But you're killing the personality, the persona, the identity at that moment, because what you do when you are drinking or smoking is not something that you would do when you wasn't intoxicated, right? So that means that it's eliminating something out the equation, and something else is being brought forth. Something else is being anointed. Something else is being crowned. The heir comes out. H-E-I-R, the heir to the throne comes out. The one who was behind the curtain comes out to play. Because you kept him bottled up, or you kept her bottled up so much and so long that when it comes out to play, it's chaos. Like I said, once again, it's the genie in the lamp theory. Rub the lamp that's under some dirt or dust, which is what we call the plants, smoke. Rub the lamp, the genie pops out. The rubbing of the lamp is actually the ingestation or ingesting or consuming something. That's the rubbing of the lamp. That lighteth the lamp of God. The genie pops out. The genie is nothing but the genes or the genetics or the genomes inside of your cell, inside of your plasma, inside of your DNA, which wakes up the archetype outside, which wakes up the archetype out of your mitochondria. That's connected to your midichlorian intelligence. Midichlorian is nothing but the living force connected, the life force connected to the living force. And I get into that a little bit, just a little bit more, where that goes. I don't want to give that away too much at the moment. Okay, so let's dive right back into the doorways. Okay, next line of doorway is consuming and ingesting and intaking of these substances is the elimination of the conscious mind and the conscious customs, along with the conscious customs. To eliminate, once again, behavior, morality, identity, personality, etc. Why? Because you go into spiritual activity or gnosis of Esperatu, which means something within the core of your being is seeking to bypass, is seeking to transcend third density, or the illusion, or the Maya, or the Gaia. It's the mind filtration system, i.e. the filtering process. So something is trying to filter itself out of you, but using you as the filtering process to sift itself out as this next entity which has been residing within you this whole time, that you did not let play, you did not let awaken, you did not activate. It had to activate itself. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you don't do it, it's going to do it. Because it always finds itself, like love will always find itself. Like I said before in the other video, you didn't find her, you didn't find him. Love found itself. So you didn't find that drug, you didn't find that alcohol, you didn't find that intelligence. That intelligence found itself. It's inevitable. It's bound to happen at some point, at some time, for whatever short duration or long duration, but it's bound to happen with something at some time. It's gonna happen. Okay, and even if you say I've never done drugs, I've never drank before, I've never smoked ever in my life. Well, guess what? Your parents did, or one of your parents did, and if they didn't, guess what? Your grandparents did. So it's still, no matter what, within the mitochondrial intelligence, which resides within the mother. You see, which resides within the placenta, what you call the nutrients and the proteins. And that's nothing but memory-based organic substance that is filled with nothing but mitochondrial intelligence. Because that is what you were resting on, what you were in, what you were as a fetus, as an embryo. So you were still sleeping on the memory, you were still living in the memory, in the plasma or the gel of the memory of the mitochondrial intelligence, the mitochondrial purpose and agenda. So it's still a memory that gets passed down. So if you never drank or smoked or did drugs, okay, fine, your kids might, or your kids will, or your grandkids might indulge, or be curious about it. So even if you never did it, there was still a point in your life where you were curious about it, or you had friends that did it, or you knew somebody who did it, or done it, or still does it. This is not to be looked at as wrong or right. This is not based upon judgment. This is based upon understanding. Can't stress that enough. Okay. This next line is pretty damn interesting that came to me. Next line of doorway is, all is the mind of God. All is the mind of God. Where is this going? What do I mean by this? Why do they say that? Well, let's take a look at one thing. Just one thing, one substance, or one fungus. Looking at the history and mystery of what we know as mushrooms, being more than 800 million years old. Did you know that mushrooms are older than 800 years old, 800 million years old? Along with other edible and consuming plant life, pretty much substantiates them as extraterrestrial life forms or cosmic substance, consuming a fair to high dose of psilocybin puts the mind, being, and body into an immediate multi-dimensional, trans-dimensional reality and experience. What does this mean? This means that traces and remnants, puts the mind, being, and body into a multi-dimensional, trans-dimensional reality experience. And these mushrooms were here in this place that we call Earth or planet or world, which there's no such thing, but I'll just keep it at this point, at the moment, to entertain the subject at hand. These things were here before our physical bodies were here. What does this mean? This means that traces and remnants of our deepest mind doorways were here in this realm and here in this plane before we physically appeared. Before we physically appeared. Which means that our mind organisms were here before we physically appeared. And these mind organisms, or organisms, but I say mind organisms, already carried a disguised intelligence of allure and attraction within botany, or floral, for our attention, to direct our attentiveness to them in order to ingest and digest them, so that the cosmic spark will be able to communicate directly and immediately to us and our conscious unconsciousness by disabling the personality, identity, morals, and behaviors. For what? To deliver a supreme chaotic cosmic message to us individually for whatever its reason, purpose, and agenda, which was uniquely created for our unique coding, knowledge, and interpretation of its language. 800 million years ago, according to study and research of the brain, body, and mind in human presence, is approximately 300 years prior to human thought. Is approximately 300 million years prior to human thought. So, what am I saying? If the physical mushroom was here in this realm before our physical bodies actually appeared, because once you understand what the crossover was from the spirit to the body, just like my body and your body right now, if you put your hand over a table or over a wall or something, you're going to cast a shadow. That shadow that you see was once the silhouette of what is the spiritual condition or the spiritual presence. So at one time, yes, we were spiritual. Yes, we were translucent. Yes, this being was a transparent intelligence. And what we know as the physical reality was nothing but a faint like shadow. just like you cast a shadow now. So that shadow that you see was actually the potential of the human body coming into being. And what we were was actually just a transparent state of intelligence. There was a crossover that occurred. You see, this is why I told you why your thoughts seek to become action and why your ideas seek to become an invention. There's always a crossover. The crossover occurred. So now that which is spiritual is trying to cross over into the physical. See, just like our spiritual state traded places and became physical. Again, once again, our thoughts and our energy, the spiritual is trying to cross over back into the physical to bring the physical back to a spiritual state of being, back to its primal state, back to its origin, back to its alpha intelligence. Okay, so I don't want to lose you at the moment, but if physical mushrooms were here before we were physically here in these physical bodies, then that means that things that influence our mind and affects our mind and our biology and our chemistry and our chemical and our alchemy, they existed here before the brain even occurred, before the chemical was even here, before biology was an idea. So what does this mean? That means that what we know as our mind was here before our bodies were here. This is why ingesting, intaking, consuming substances puts you back into this multi-dimensional, trans-dimensional reality and state of existence. This cosmic supernatural experience, unexplainable. Can't even understand it, but you can't deny the experience. So once again, it breaks down the boundaries of your personality, your identity. It kills it, eliminates it, completely obliterates it. But for why? For what reason? To bring us back into a spiritual state of being in our physical bodies, to have a spiritual experience. Remember, I told you, we are primarily spirits having a human experience. See, it's spirituality having an experience of humanity. It's not the other way around. We're not humans having a spiritual experience. We're a spirit having a human condition, or spirits in a human condition, or a human condition state of being. The unconditional experiencing the conditional. Okay, so we have things that were here to affect our mind, our thought, which means that our mind was already here before our body was here. That's the point I'm trying to make to understand. So we were bound to be here. There was bound to be a crossover that was going to occur at some time. That which was transparent was about to be seen, was bound to be seen sooner or later, because our mind was here before our brain was here, before our body was here. So this was the calling. This is the mission. This is the path. And we have things growing all over the ground, all over the floor, trees, plant life everywhere, that once it's consumed and ingested, it immediately wakes us up back into the primal alpha origin state of being, because it was here in that primal state, in that original state. That's why we turn into nothing, or things go from something to nothing when these things are consumed and ingested and intaken. Okay. Um, this is just something I just said. Whatever extreme experience you decide to take, keep the hippocampus awake. Whatever extreme experience you decide to take, keep the hippocampus awake. The hippocampus in the brain is a part of memory, things of that nature, memory, consciousness. Always be able to remember what transpired while you were in those intoxicated states, or those high states, when those high states transpire. Try to remember, remain conscious. Even though you still feeling nice, you're still feeling kind of whatever here and there, you're just drifting. But at those times, remain conscious. Stay conscious. Figure out what's happening in the body that's putting you through that present experience. Know it, memorize it, record it, wake back up into the next day after that comes out your body, and write down the esoteric or the spiritual explanations of that experience which took place at that time. And you'll have more of a metaphysical understanding. You'll dive into the occult, into the darkness, into the hidden aspect of the reason of why that occurred. Okay. Next line or doorway is to consume, ingest, and intake the drug, smoke, or alcohol is to basically is to bring forth primal intelligence and alpha archetypes once again. Subconscious, which are subconscious symbological methodologies that project from that space of nowhere into the space of somewhere, which is the present physical presence of you, physical being, to calculate the perfected formula that disseminates and eliminates the third dimensional threshold of existence. But what does all this mean? Why are we doing this? Why is this happening? But before these questions are answered, we must first have to ask this question. Why do these things even exist inside of our damn experience? If we weren't supposed to ingest, consume, intake, and digest these things, how does my body know to digest this? How? Why do these plants, these mushrooms, this barley, this grain, these fruits, these vegetables, why do these things even exist in the same realm that I exist in if I'm not supposed to interact with it to a certain degree? Why even have it here? Why couldn't this be grown or sprouted or born on another planet or another realm elsewhere? Why is it within the same realm that I exist within? If it's so wrong and it's bad and it's not good, why is it here? Which means that we are supposed to interface and interact with it. There's supposed to be an interplay that's supposed to take place between us and it at some point, at some time, for whatever reason. I'm not giving it any reason. I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying, if it wasn't here for us, why is it here with us? It's just a question. And this is not a question to answer me. This is a question to question yourself about and answer yourself with. Remember, this path is about self-reflection, self-analyzation. Self-observation leads to self-realization, and realization is enlightenment. This is an internal mission, an internal path. This has nothing to do with the external to that degree, which is why I say we consume and ingest external substances, external things, because we're trying to tap on and wake up and turn on that which is internal so that we no longer have to seek and find these external substances to turn on something internal. So that's the whole point. The whole point is to turn on that which is internal. Because obviously, if the body did not know that mushroom, if the body did not know that marijuana, if the body did not know that tobacco, if the body did not know the form of distillation, fermentation, pasteurization, homogenization, if the body did not know that fruit was going through a fermented stage, a putrefying stage, a form of petrification or putrefaction and purification, how does it know to digest it? How would it know to? See, my body already knows that fruit before I know that fruit. Before I even see that fruit, before I even think that fruit exists, my body is already fully equipped. This body is already fully equipped to break that shit down through the process of what we call digestion, after ingestion, after consumption. It already knows. It's already on. It knows what's up before I even know what's up. My lungs know to get rid of that smoke. It knows what's up before I even know what marijuana is, before I even knew marijuana even existed. How do my lungs know that that existed somewhere out there before I even knew the letter M in the alphabet? See, your body knows before you know. Your body comes fully equipped. It's designed to come with this intelligence to break down anything that tries to synthesize within its system, within its intelligence. See, body doesn't harm itself. This system does not harm itself. It just goes through, it takes things and it puts it through a process of transformation and conversion, which is what we know once again as synthesization. Signs, symbols. Sign just means synthesization. Synthesization. Synthesization, to synthesize, to sign the size, or to find the size of the sign to make it a smaller size. Synthesize. To get to the core, to get to the nucleus of your divine cosmic intelligence, to get to the all-knowing, the all-seeing, the most high, the most high, the most high. Why do they call it the most high? See, so these are things to ponder on, to wonder about, to wander within, to drift with, into your own interpretation and your own understanding of what's taking place when your body and your physical nature is consuming these things. Okay? Because, it's like I said once again, it's like something within us that we naturally are is trying to pierce through the firmament, is trying to eject, suspend, is trying to eject, suspend, and escape. That's why people do drugs, smoke, and drink, because something within us that we naturally are, that we are naturally made up of, that is the natural makeup of this physical third dimensional, third density reality, is seeking to eject, suspend, and escape this third dimensional reality. This is why consuming things too much and not doing it by ritual, not giving the intake, not giving the in a way out. If you're just consuming and smoking without drinking water, you're just drinking alcohol without drinking water, without giving it a natural transportation back out the damn system, then other things begin to happen. Rotting, the sickness, the ailments, the imbalances of the health within the human system, within the physical system, which is what you call the human body, begin to happen. Deterioration. Things start to go through a rotting stage. And I guess you can call that as well the eject, the suspension, and the escaping as well. It's the spirit trying to release itself from the body. It's the soul trying to leave this illusion back into its real source, back into its real state of being. It's the resource returning back to the source. The resource returning back to the source. Another way of looking at it. Okay? Or another way of perceiving it. For better words, better understanding. The next line on the doorway is ancient Egyptians or Cometians. The Cometians of antiquitous times. Also used intoxicants and psychedelic consumption, which is what I mentioned before with the whole, all the different, you got the Akinme, which are the ancient priesthood of the Mayans and the Olmecs. You have the Aniyumanya, which are who you know as the Cherokee, ancient priesthood as well. You have all different kind of these sages, these even gurus. You had yogis that did it, shamans. You have people in southern India called the Agori Sadhu, who deal with the spiritual practices of not giving a damn about the body and the physical pleasures like sex, food at certain times. They do the immoral stuff. They'll sleep on the gravesite or sleep in the cemetery, or they'll drink wine out of a person's skull. See, they'll use people's bones and animals' bones to bring about a certain kind of prophecy, or have to have a prophetic moment, or to open up a premonition. within their spiritual core. They're going outside the boundaries of what is wrong and what is right and what is good and what is bad and what is pure and what is evil. If they can do it, if it can be done, then it will be done. How can you say that they're wrong or they're right? If it wasn't supposed to be done, there would be no way for it to be done. But since it can be done, then it will. Sometime by someone in some form, one way or another. This is the reality of chaos. This is pure chaos. Why do you think the movie The Joker and the Batman was so popular? Why the Joker was so popular? Because he ain't give a shit about nothing. He was breaking past the boundaries in which he had such a big following behind him because this is the true nature of people's being. Regardless of who they think they are, how good of a person they think they are, you know, what a good citizen they are, and all this moral shit. This has nothing to do with spiritual nature. If anything, that just entraps the spirit and imprisons the soul in a certain way of perceiving it. But understand, once again, what I'm saying is not supposed to be taken as good or bad. This is all about just understanding. Okay. But yeah, the ancient Commission priesthood, they also, not just the priesthood, but also different people in certain positions of authority, enforcement, um, ingested intake intoxicants and psychedelic consumption, opium, nymphaea, coca, tobacco, mushrooms, and things like that. And there was an elder by the name of Kalindi Yi, and he spoke of how when you look at the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, if you look at them, they're standing like this, and they're standing like this, and they're looking like this. And if you look at their stance and their structure, he pointed out that if you zoom in, if you look at their stance and their structure, you're going to see that they're standing like the mushroom. And that was very, 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 very interesting when he said that. And then he said, if you look at certain things that they have on their table, and within the hieroglyphs and within the petroglyphs, you will see shapes on their crowns as well. A certain of, you know, positions of authority and power. They had baby mushrooms on their helmets or headgear. And those baby mushrooms within the hieroglyphs. And they would stand in stances of authority like a mushroom. And what he was touching upon basically was that this is years upon years upon years upon years ago what I was looking at one time. And he was saying basically that what you know as Horus and Heru and Isis and Osiris, you know, Heru, Sekhmet, Sobek, all these different deities or these deifications or these gods, as you were to say, even though there's a deep understanding to it, but I'm just going to say this for a moment. He was saying that they were actual entities. They were actual real things that existed in another multi-dimensional existence. And he said that when the pharaohs or the Nasubitis consumed these mushrooms, they would go to these multi-dimensional states of existence and they would hold counsel, they would commune, they would communicate with these gods on this platform. And these gods said, bring me back to that physical reality when you come back into your awakened state and draw me into your existence there so I can hold counsel there. So I can bring about a certain kind of order. So this is another way of perceiving it as well. When you do intoxicants, when you drink for intoxication or to get high or whatever you want to do, drugs, smoke, drink, uh, there's different levels of different enhanced states of stimuli that will bring you to certain dimensional states of existence. And you are going to come across different entities with different forms and formations, and their body may be different. You may see an elephant head on top of a fox's body, or you know, an eagle claw, on the hand of a shark or something. You're gonna see these different uh, entities for whatever reason. Usually people who do mushrooms a lot, I've came across that told me things that they seen or witnessed or came in contact with or was communed with or communicated with of different things with different formations that they themselves didn't even understand what the hell they was witnessing at that point. But nevertheless, they were able to describe it to a T in some way, able to, merely describe certain things. Um, but the order that was held in Kemet, or what you know as Egypt, which is known as Kemet, Nubia and Kush and stuff like that, as well as Ethiopia, or Abyssinia. These gods that they drew up and carved as relief, what you call relief. I think relief is when the carvings are popped out of the hieroglyphs. I forgot when it's indented. I forgot what it's called. But I think it's called relief when it's like a pop out. That's where you get your pop out book creation from. When these hieroglyphs were popped out, these gods, these deities that were on these temples and these inside these pyramids and these structures, they said those are multi-dimensional gods that they met going into that trans-dimensional state, and they brought them here. And because of these gods, they held this order, and they held this confederation of order in that area, amongst other areas that they were allied with. So I mean, you take it for what it's worth, and you make sense to you of what I'm saying. Because I'm just, like I said, I'm just a messenger with a message. Um, do whatever I'm saying, whatever I'm sharing, do with it as you will, whatever makes sense to you. Um, but don't deny it if it gets you curious, if it catches your attention, what I'm saying, and it holds your interest of what I'm saying. That means that spiritually, what I'm saying or what I'm sharing with you is a part of you, and it is you, and it is you seeking. It is a part of your seeking. It's a part of your path. It's a part of your mission. It's not you seeking it, rather than it's more seeking you. And it just needs you to acknowledge it. It needs you to look at it so it can give you something, a message that maybe you can share with me. Like I said, my email is in the bottom of the video. Get in touch with me. I have a Zoom consultations as well, things of that nature, where I'll go deeper and deeper into certain subjects of each video, depending upon what caught your interest or what held your attention. I have a plethora of books, notepads, things that I write on, things that's made for presentations and Zoom sessions and things of that nature that I can go deeper in on whatever topic, if interested further. The next line in Odowe is, you are not trying to ingest and intake and consume these things. You are actually trying to induce, conjure, provoke, call forth, to educare the transnatural experience naturally without external assistance. So when you're intaking things, you're not really intaking something to intake it. You're intaking it to provoke something, to induce something, to conjure up something. And educare means to draw out, to pull out, to draw forth, to bring forth, to call forth. So when you're smoking, when you're drinking, when you're doing drugs, whatever you're doing, you're actually doing it to pull out something. You're not really doing it to take in something. The physical act is the taking in, but the spiritual act is the drawing out. So ask yourself, or I ask you, what are you trying to draw out? Who are you trying to draw out? And for what reason? I'm asking you this, but this is something for you to ask yourself. This is something for self-reflection homework. But I'm just bringing the question to you to utilize that question on yourself. This is why these entities, things happen, things come out, these energies, they come and they draw forth, because it's an actual thing that you are inducing, you are conjuring up something. And this is even in rituals and ceremonies, spiritual rituals and ceremonies. 10, 20, 30,000 years ago as well. Because they say it's known that they saying that ancient Egypt is like 3,000, 5,000 years old, but that's couldn't be more wrong. It goes back way beyond that. The Sphinx itself, the Sphinx that we see in Egypt is or Kemet is carbon dated, actually carbon dated to be 90,000 years old, and is wearing the same headdress or the same head garment as the Nasubitis in Kemet now, or in Kemet 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. You see, the 42 laws of Ma'at, which is known as the 42 laws of Ma'at, is where the Ten Commandments came from. That itself is known to be at least 10,000 years old and was written by 5 sages. The 42 annotations, the 42 assessors of Ma'at. These things, that book alone is 10,000 years old or more. So ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt or the antiquitous times of Kemet or the Cometians is at the very least 20 to 30,000 years old. It's not 3,000 to 4,000. As a matter of fact, the 3,000 to 4,000 mark, there's artifacts in there. There's artifacts in clay and claymation and clay work and ornaments that are 10,000 years old. So how can ancient Egypt be only 3,000 years old or 4,000 years old, even when within that 3,000, 4,000 mark, there are clay works that are 10,000 years older than that? The math doesn't add up. But we're not here to get into that at the moment, to that degree. I'm only sharing principle with you. These are my videos based upon principle, based upon the mysteries of things. But it doesn't mean that because I touch upon the mysteries of metaphysics and the principles of things, it doesn't mean because I share a mystery that I have no knowledge of the history, which I'm very, very, very well versed within. But that's not what I share on these videos. I share upon you and with you the mysteries of life, the principles of life, which is what we're going to stay on. So, once again, you're not trying to ingest and intake things. When you ingest and intake and consume, you're actually trying to draw out. You're actually trying to induce, conjure, and provoke. When you provoke something spiritual. Shamans, spiritualists of certain times, conductors of ceremonies and rituals and things like that, they themselves had alcohol that they spit out during rituals. They had smoke that they inhaled and blew around the person that was being held in the ritual and the ceremony. Right or wrong? Your church or churches, what they do, they drink wine, which is known as the blood of Christ, which is nothing but blood crystallization or the crystallized blood or the blood crystal, which is in your body. So your deacons, your sermons, your preachers drink wine, and they talk about wine. And there's ceremonies based upon wine and candles and the eating of the bread, because they don't want your ass to get too drunk. So whether it's religion or spiritual practices, wine, drugs, and smoke is heavily involved. So why is this such a bad thing? Why is it seen as a good thing even? It doesn't matter. There is no such thing. It just is what it is. You just are what you are, and you just do what you do for whatever reason. But you have to find that spiritual reason of why the hell you do that. This is what this whole damn thing is about. And the last line in doorway is, this just came to me as something last before I finished the whole thing. When I was thinking of the black record, like the black record and the black vinyl that my aunts, uncles used to play back in the day on both my father's side and my mother's side. You know, you got these old songs, you got the OJs, the Al Green, you know, the Temptations, Smokey Robinson, whoever, Barry White, I think I said Al Green, the Osley Brothers, you know. There's a certain sound on a record or black vinyl, which is why it was black, that did something to the spirit and the soul. Okay. And I'll go from this point. Now, this is the intelligence of melanin, or the intelligence of dark matter, or the intelligence of dark plasma. The black record or vinyl leads to the dark liquor. This is why people drink. They drink that hardcore dark liquor while listening to a dark record. That leads to the blackness behind the eyelids. This is when they drinking that dark liquor, listening to a dark record, and they start to close their eyes because they drunk as a motherfucker, or they just intoxicated. They feeling nice. And those black eyelids, that blackness behind the eyelids, led to the blackness in the melanin that connects to the dark matter intelligence within the universe. The universe is always trying to communicate to you, whether it grows in plants, botany, fruits, grain, barley, whatever the hell, beer, liquor, alcohol, drugs, smoke, however. Something is grown here within. Everything that's grown here is grown here within a universal body. It doesn't matter. Even if it's a sunny day outside right now and the blue skies and the sun is out, we're still surrounded by darkness. And we'll always be surrounded by darkness. So no matter what grows in the light, it's still surrounded by darkness. And the universe ain't just up there. The universe is over there. The universe is over there. And the universe is over here. It's not just up here. Matter of fact, there is no up or down, left or right. We just are. We just in orbit, orbiting in nothingness, in dark matter. So why wouldn't things be grown here in this plane, in this realm, in this dimension that wouldn't be of benefit to the universe, to the universe, to the universe? Why wouldn't the universe have something to do with it? Or why wouldn't the dark matter intelligence have something to do with your mushroom? Why wouldn't the dark matter intelligence have something to do with your alcohol? Why wouldn't the dark matter intelligence have something to do with your drug? Of course, it has to be. This thing that we call life is nothing but light. This is the light realm in between the darkness of the universe and the darkness of the sea. And we're just this light in the middle. So we're in between a sandwich of darkness. The meat is us, where we're at right now at the moment in the physical body, which is nothing but a thin slither of light in between two dark pieces of bread. All around. All around. Not just above us, to the sides, underneath us, behind us, and in front of us, and most importantly, within us. Okay? So the point I wanted to make was the black record of vinyl leads to the dark liquor. The dark liquor leads to the blackness behind the eyelids. The blackness behind the eyelids leads to the blackness in the melanin, and the blackness in the melanin leads to the dark matter intelligence in the universe. The universe is always trying to communicate with you. It always stays with you no matter where you are. You will always be able to see the universe. You know how you will always be able to see the universe? All the time. It doesn't matter. You can be in a bomb shelter. You can be underground. You can be under the water. You can be wherever you want to be. You're always able to see the universe because the universe is always trying to communicate to you, whether it be a plant, like I said, a grain, seed, fruit, whatever it may be. The universe is in constant connection with you and constant communication with you. Do you know how to see the universe right now? This is how you see the universe. All you have to do is close your eyes. The universe is pitch blackness. So when I close my eyes, I turn into the universe. When I open my eyes, I come back into the physical reality. So whenever you want to see the universe, just close your eyes. Because the universe is always with you because it is actually within you. And everything that's grown in between is a part of its agenda. Which has nothing to do with personality, morality, behavior, identity, persona, ego, nothing. It's all spiritual from the soul. That's why it's a solar system, galaxy. Everything is trying to communicate to you by communicating through you, back to it, back to source, back to the alpha of your intelligence. Am I as I am, as you are? I'll see you guys next time. I appreciate you guys staying. Once again, I appreciate my subscribers. It's most appreciated. And spread the light to others. You're doing the due diligence by that. I do a due diligence by you. You do a due diligence overall. Subscribe, pass the light to others. And I will see you guys next time. Until then, you already know. Keep doing vision. 1, 0.